Today to Madam Shakira and Madam Majato and my fellow debaters. We are from Tutorial 5, Group 14. I am Yen Yi, this is Ain, Farah, Renov and Taital. Today, we are here to discuss the abolition of the Mandatory Death Penalty Bill 2023. Ain, Farah and I will represent the affirmative team. Renov and Taital will represent the negative team. When the time still have 30 seconds left, I will ring the bell one time. And when the time have 10 seconds left, I will ring the bell another time again. I will ring the bell 3 times when the time is end. So for the first speaker of the affirmative team, you may start now.
Thank you, Yani. So the abolition of mandatory death penalty bill 2023 has many advantages. So firstly, it could be said that this bill represents a vital step forward in our justice system, offering judges greater flexibility and also allowing for more proportionate sentencing based on the specific of each case. Let me explain why this flexibility is crucial. So under this bill, judges are no longer forced to impose death penalty for certain crimes. Take drug trafficking for example. So under the Dangerous Drug Act 1952, Section 39B, it was said that any person who contravene any of the provision of subsection 1 shall be guilty of an offence against this act and shall be punished on conviction, be it death or imprisonment for life. Shall, if he is not sentenced to death, be punished with whipping not less than 15 strokes. Now judges can consider whether the offender was a minor participant like a drug mule who was coerced into trafficking or mastermind of the operation. This mirror practices in places like the UK where judges can issue life sentences with the possibility of parole. This ensures that the punishment fits the crime. So after that, let's look at the case of Yong Bui Kong in Singapore. He was a young man who was sentenced to death for drug trafficking despite being a drug mule acting under duress. So thanks to legal reform, his sentence was reduced to life imprisonment. This allowed the court to take his individual circumstances into account. So Malaysia's new bill will allow for similar judgment. And these bills also avoid overly harsh punishment for those with minimal role in serious crime. For example, let's take armed robbery where murder occurs. So under the old law, even the lookout or getaway driver could be sentenced to death. The new bill allows judges to reserve the harshest punishment for those who are most culpable. So India's Supreme Court has already done this in cases like Santosh Baria v State of Maharashtra, but the death penalty was reduced because the accused was only playing a minor role. So now let's talk about rehabilitation and its benefit. By abolishing the mandatory death penalty, Malaysia can focus on giving offenders the chance to reform. So instead of death, alternative sentences like life imprisonment allow individuals to participate in rehabilitation program and potentially reintegrate into society. So in the US, we take Gilbert Rudell as example. So he was once sentenced to death but became an award-winning journalist while serving in life sentence. His case shows that even offenders with serious crime can change and contribute positively. So another practical benefit of this bill is that it reduces high cost of death penalty litigation. In the US, it has been shown that pursuing death penalty case costs significantly more than sentencing someone to life imprisonment. Since 1978, California alone has spent over $4 billion on death penalty, with each execution costing around more than $300 million. By shifting to life sentences and focusing on rehabilitation, Malaysia can avoid such expenses. So in short, the abolition of mandatory death penalty 2023 not only allow for more fair and tailored justice, but also create opportunities for offenders to reform and reintegrate into society. It promotes proportional sentencing, also helps reduce the financial burden on our legal system. We believe this bill is a significant step forward for Malaysia's justice system, and we strongly support its implementation. That's all from my point.
My first question will be, how will the bill impact Malaysia overall legal and social system?
So basically, by focusing more on rehabilitation, the bill encourages justice system to emphasize reform over punishment. So this could lead to lower habitual relapse into crime rates and also a more human approach to criminal justice. Additionally, it may alleviate some of the financial and emotional costs associated with lengthy death penalty appeals, promoting a more efficient legal process while still maintaining public order.
Wouldn't abolishing the mandatory death penalty will lead to more lenient sentence for very serious crime?
So I think no, because the bill still allows for severe penalties, including life imprisonment or even death sentence in extreme cases. However, it ensures that the harshest punishment is reserved for the most culpable offenders, while considering mitigating factors for others, promoting fairness and also justice.
So you agree that death penalty shall apply in extreme case, right?
Yes.
The aim of the Abolition of Mandatory Death Penalty Bill 2023 is to remove the mandatory death penalty from particular offences in Malaysian law. Although they are thought to pave the way for a more efficient and compassionate legal system, there are some disadvantages that need to be taken into consideration. In our stance, we propose a counter plan which we shall impose mandatory death penalty for cases such as murder, rape, murder with the intention to torture, and the head of gangs. One of the main apprehensions on abolishing the mandatory death penalty is that there might be a rise in crime rate. Okay. Traditionally, the mandatory death penalty has performed the role of a draconian deterrence to brutal crimes such as murder and drug trafficking. This, of course, may be easily explained by the fact that the ultimate punishment will get people to shiver from committing such terrible crimes. In this regard, research has suggested that death penalty, especially where it applied mandatorily, serves to create a perception of severe consequences for serious offences. As a result, this perception plays a crucial role in shaping the action of potential offenders, since the absence of such sentences do not prevent them from committing their crimes, thinking that they will end with lighter sentences. This might lead to a higher rate of violent crime and hence undermine public safety and security. In the case of Zara, 2018, an 11-month-old girl, Nur Muazzara Ulfa Muhammad Zainal, also known as Zara, was sodomized and raped by her babysitter's husband Hasmi Majid in Selangor. She died 2 days later at Ferdang Hospital due to injuries caused by lethal blunt force trauma. For instance, desperate nations have released disparate data regarding the rate of crimes following the repeal of the death penalty. Abolition has occasionally been accompanied by a rise in crime rates, which may indicate that the removal of harsh penalties may cause people to think twice before committing a crime. If people think that the consequences of serious crimes are not that serious anymore, they might be willing to take more risk, which in turn means that violent and serious crimes would increase. Public perception of a softer legal system leads to changes in societal attitudes about crimes and punishments in that community. Safety would be seen as less secure and heightened anxiety and fear among the population. The well-being of societies and social unity may suffer greatly from such a weakening of trust in the legal system. Ironically, this might encourage increased criminal activity, which would then be countered by the same compassionate legal framework, creating a vicious cycle of instability and anxiety. Thank you.
My question is, how does the abolition of the mandatory death penalty can affect crime rates?
Well, one of the main concerns is that crime rates, especially for serious offences like murder and drug trafficking, may rise. The mandatory death penalty has traditionally acted as a strong deterrent, and its removal could lead to more people committing these crimes under the belief that the consequences will be less severe. However, this relationship between the death penalty and crime deterrence is debated with mixed data from many countries.
Okay, thank you. My next question is, could the abolition of the mandatory death penalty encourage more violent crimes?
Well, it is possible that some criminals may be emboldened to commit violent crimes if they believe the consequences will not be as severe. The lack of a mandatory death penalty could be interpreted as a softer legal stance, which may encourage certain individuals to take more risks. This could contribute to an increase in serious offences, particularly if offenders perceive that they have less to lose. Thank you.
Okay, next, I will talk about the other advantages, which is public awareness and education campaigns. Public awareness and education campaigns are crucial for engaging the public and ensuring that they understand the rationale behind the abolition of the mandatory death penalty. These campaigns should target different segments of society using a range of platforms to ensure that the population is informed about the ethical and practical reasons for the bill's implementation. One of the key components is ethical concerns. Main ethical concerns surrounding the mandatory death penalty is that it removes judicial discretion, leading to the imposition of a fixed punishment regardless of the circumstances. Public campaigns should highlight how these can lead to unjust outcomes such as disproportionate sentencing or the execution of the individuals who may have mitigating circumstances such as mental illness or acting under duress. In addition, the irreversible nature of the death penalty is a critical ethical issue. Campaigns can actually emphasize the potential for judicial error, noting cases where individuals have been wrongfully convicted or later exonerated. My second point is training for the judiciary. The success of the abolition of mandatory death penalty bill 2023 hinged not only on public awareness but also on the proper training of the judiciary. This is because the bill reintroduces judicial discretion in cases where the death penalty was previously mandatory, placing a significant responsibility on judges to determine appropriate sentences. Without clear guidelines and adequate training, there is a risk of inconsistent or arbitrary sentencing, which could undermine the objectives of the bill. Therefore, comprehensive and targeted training for judges and legal practitioners is essential to ensure that they are well equipped to apply the new legal framework fairly, consistently, and in line with human rights principles. The primary goal of judicial training should be teach judges how to effectively assess both aggravating and mitigating factors when determining sentences in capital cases. Under the mandatory death penalty system, judges were deprived of the opportunity to consider the specific circumstances surrounding an offence, leading to a uniform punishment that often disregarded important contextual factors. With the abolition of the mandatory death penalty, judges now have the discretion to take into account elements such as the offender's intent, level of involvement, background, and any instituted circumstances. Aggravating factors may include the premeditated nature of a crime and or extreme violence, while mitigating factors might involve mental illness, coercion, or of the age of the offender.
So my question is, first of all, how can public awareness campaigns change the mindset of people who strongly believe that the death penalty is an effective deterrent to crime?
Okay, public awareness campaign can provide evidence-based data that challenge the perception of the death penalty as a deterrent. Studies from countries that have abolished the death penalty, such as in Europe and parts of Asia, show that crime rates do not necessarily increase without capital punishment, and in some cases they decrease. By highlighting these findings, campaigns can demonstrate that addressing the root cause of crime such as poverty, lack of education, and addiction has a more significant impact on reducing crime than capital punishment. Additionally, showcasing real-life cases where the death penalty failed to deter crime can further weaken the argument for its effectiveness as a deterrent.
My second question is, what role does the public awareness plan play in ensuring that the ethical concerns surrounding the death penalty are understood by society?
Okay. That public awareness campaign play a crucial role in educating society about the ethical concerns of the death penalty, such as its irrevocable nature and the potential for wrongful convictions. Through well-structured campaigns, people can learn about the human rights principle that oppose capital punishment, including the idea that every human being has the right to life and the possibility of rehabilitation. campaign can use case studies of individuals who were wrongly convicted and later exonerated, emphasizing the irreversible consequences of wrongful executions. This helps the public understand that the death penalty, particularly when mandatory, poses significant ethical issues by removing the possibility of correcting judicial errors. Thank you.
Me. Despite potential argument for leniency for just a small drug move, we firmly believe that death penalty remains a necessary punishment for extreme cases such as rape, murder, or the head of drug trafficking group. Consider this horrific example from recent Malaysia. In 2019, Ampang Woon Choi, which is an 85-year-old woman, was found dead in her flat. Post-mortem examination revealed that she has been raped and sodomized before being murdered. Furthermore, Narcotics Department Director Dato Sri Muhammad Saleh warned in 2018 that drug-laced products pose a serious issue threat to Malaysia youth. These substances, disguised as ordinary drinks or cigarettes, are easily accessible and contribute to an alarming rise in teen drug addiction. According to the National Health Mobility Survey, in 2020, they revealed that approximately 60,000 Malaysian teens are currently drug users, while over than 100,000 have experienced drug at least once. Drug trafficking destroys their life, destroys their family, and destroys their future, which we should give a firm response. Terrorism attack also being a global issue. In 2024 alone, almost 45,000 lives was lost in terrorist attack, and Malaysia is not immune from this. For example, in 2024, which is just now, a JI member attacked a police station in Johor, which caused the death of 2 police officers and injured the other. We believe that every crime has its proportionate punishment, that just heinous crime demand the most severe punishment, which is mandatory death penalty. We have to outline this guideline for the judicial to deal with this case, but not let them to decide. To show mercy in this case is to disregard the suffering of the victim and the safety of the society. Some argue against the death penalty, citing concern about potential miscarriage of justice or the irreversibility of the punishment. However, we could solve this by having a more judicial reform, which we improve our judicial procedure to avoid this mistake. However, the risk of releasing such individuals capable for such brutality back into society is too great. Gang and terrorists remain a serious threat for the investigation officer, court officer, and also the witness. Law lecturer Alexander Woon of the Singapore University of Social Science, they point out that deterrent effect of the death penalty even will reduce if the criminal believes that they wouldn't be sentenced death. While the death penalty is a grave decision, we believe that it is only justifiable punishment for the most heinous crime. It serves as a deterrent justice for victims and their family and protect society from future harm. We think that the disadvantage of abolishment of fully abolishment of death penalty overrule its advantage. Thus, we oppose it.
So, thank you, Nathaniel. I have a question for you. You state that the judicial system will be too soft if we abolish the mandatory death penalty. However, this is not the situation in Malaysia. Take the school bullying case in Malaysia as a reference. It was said that the Court of Appeal had sentenced to death the 6 school bully offender, which had caused the death of the victim.
As according to Locke Manhattan in Wedger and Sons Limited, which he stated that the duty of the court and its only duty is to interpret the act in accordance with the Parliament Act. So we think that making a law and outline that what should have mandatory death penalty, who should be sentenced death, is the duty of the legislative but not the judiciary. We think that a clear law that a written law that states in penal code that this act will cause death penalty, mandatory death penalty, will create more deterrent effects in the most grievous case.
abolishment of mandatory death penalty could reduce crime rate?
Under the doctrine of proportionality, the legal punishment of an act shall be proportionate to the severity of the act. For example, in section 376 of the Penal Code, which provides that who commit rape by using their own authority or over his subordinate shall be punished with imprisonment for a term not less than 10 years and not more than 30 years and with whipping. However, who commit rape and cause the death of the woman, actually the punishment is also 30 years and with whipping or death penalty. So we think that this similar punishment but different severity is not a fair solution for everyone. And then we should be consistent in our proportionality.
So, in the conclusion for our affirmative team, the abolition of mandatory death penalty Bill 2023 introduces crucial flexibility in sentencing, allowing judges to tailor punishment to the specific circumstances of each case. This approach ensures fair and proportionate justice, which can effectively reduce crime rates by discouraging harsh penalties that do not fit the crime. By prioritizing rehabilitation over punishment, the legal system gives offenders the opportunity to reform and reintegrate into society. However, while promoting rehabilitation and opportunities for reform, the bill also raises concern about public perception. By training the judiciary system, the justice system viewed as soft must struggle to gain public trust, as their fear to tendency could undermine accountability for serious crime. Therefore, it is essential to balance the principle of rehabilitation with a strong commitment to public safety and the consequences of criminal behavior. To achieve this balance, enhanced public awareness campaigns are vital to educate citizens about the benefits of rehabilitation and proportional justice. Such initiatives can demonstrate that these approaches contribute to safer communities and a more effective justice system. By fostering understanding and support, the judiciary can strengthen its legitimacy while focusing on second chances for offenders, ultimately leading to a more just and effective legal framework. This is all from our affirmative team.
Thank you. In conclusion, while the abolition of mandatory death penalty Bill 2023 presents itself as a step toward a more humane and rehabilitative legal system, the potential consequences cannot be overlooked. A rise in crime rates, the erosion of public trust, and the inconsistency in sentencing are all real concerns that policymakers need to address thoughtfully. The idea of compassion for offenders must be balanced with the protection of society, especially its most vulnerable members, which are women, children, and those affected by violent crime. The mandatory death penalty, though harsh, serves as a definitive deterrent against crimes that pose severe threats to public safety such as murder, rape, drug trafficking, and terrorism. Without it, the legal system could become less predictable, opening the door for unequal and inconsistent sentencing that may undermine justice. Vulnerable groups who are often victims of heinous crimes need assurances that their safety remains a priority, and this can only be achieved by maintaining a strong stance against those who commit serious offences. Furthermore, leniency towards individuals involved in extreme acts like terrorism or organized crime risks empowering these dangerous groups, threatening the security of the entire nation. Policymakers must reflect deeply on how to balance ethical considerations with the fundamental duty to protect the public. The success of this bill and any reform aimed at the death penalty will depend not only on its careful implementation but also on the broader social and legal framework that accompanies it. Ultimately, the safety and well-being of society must remain paramount, and any legal reforms must ensure that justice is not only done but is also seen to be done in a fair, transparent, and consistent